Welcome, everybody, to today's entrepreneurial talk. I am so excited to have a past client of mine, Joni. She is a powerhouse and she has this unique ability to understand mindset, but in such a different analogy that is so universal and so easy to just comprehend. So, Joni, tell us, who are you? What can we do? And what is it that you do?
First of all, thank you so much for having me here, and thanks for being my coach. I had an incredible experience with you and learned a lot, and it was worth every minute. So, I am a registered nurse and a board certified nurse coach. I've been a nurse for almost 30 years. I've been a fitness instructor for almost 20 years, and I've been a coach, a nurse coach for about 4 years. And I have found the thing that I was born to do. At least that's the way it feels for me.
Yeah, yeah. I want to tell people, and I want you to explain this because your analogy with the mindset shift, with the car analogy, how did that develop? And can you explain a little bit about that particular circle? Because it's so unique, and I want everyone to hear this from you.
Oh, thank you. Absolutely. So it started before I even decided to do the nurse coaching training program. I started researching coaching, health, wellness, just dove into all of it. Found all different approaches from functional medicine to positive psychology to heart math and strength characters. And so then I went through my nurse training, nurse coach training program and took in all of that aspect of it, which is body, mind, and spirit, holding space. And then after I completed my program and started working with clients, things just started showing up for me for people in a way that made it easier. And so, what I mean by that is all of the things that we're studying and that we work, it's like a diet. All diets work to some extent if you follow them and you stick to it.
Yeah, yeah.
The problem is, so many of the things are complicated. And so, what I found and how I niched into my process is using my own kind of unique visual creativity to make it simple for my clients. So my specialty is stress and overwhelm, and I'm a
Yeah.
firm believer in the autonomic nervous system, the sympathetic, the parasympathetic, all of physiological components that happen. I'm also a firm believer in thought management, presence, awareness. Your thoughts direct your feelings, drive your actions, get your results. And I'm also a firm believer in how our emotional state affects those things. And what I found is, and I still find, is a lot of people teach these things and
Hmm.
they work, but either they're not easy to understand or they're missing a component. So what I did was just put it all together initially. And then when I started teaching high school students is when the car analogy came. And what that is just basically we have a car, there is a driver, and you can use a map. And everybody seems to understand it when I talk this way. And the car
Hmm.
represents our body, the physical body that feels sensations. So that's the body of the car. We have a heart, our emotions. And in the car analogy, that represents the sound system. Whatever is playing on the radio in the car creates the vibration, the energy, and that's the emotion and energy that we put out. And then the dashboard, we have signaling, we have warning lights, lane departure, tank is full or half empty, check engine light, and that represents our brain, not the higher brain, our spirit, just the brain, our tool, the one that gives
Hmm.
us warnings and
Warning
signals
signs.
and say this,
Hmm.
don't say that. So that's the car. And then I help people see that they're the driver. They can get in and out of that car. When they're present, they can manage what's happening inside the car. And when they're not, the car kind of operates or just sits there on its own. And then finally, if there's a map, and that is what I call and what I learned as the thought model, where there's a process of understanding you have a circumstance. It doesn't mean anything until you have a thought about it, which creates your emotion, which drives your action, which gets your results. And that those three things, understanding those individually, are powerful. But then when you put them all together, it's literally life changing. And I've had the opportunity to work with all kinds of people and see it happen over and with myself.
Yeah. And I love this analogy because one of the things that I always talk about is like the GPS system. And when you're talking about the thought process, like when you plug in, especially in your analogy, when you plug in an address, people have to also understand that it detours. There's different circumstances, red light, traffic, all these different stuff that occurs. And it's the self-regulation in between that, which is I love, right? Because you can go the scenic route, which is amazing, or you can go the route where GPS takes you a roundabout to the left, to the right, to the up, to the down, to the
Right,
go across the bridge to make a left turn. You make a like it's just life. And then like
right.
when life doesn't go your way, or when you're like in a tunnel vision of I need to go from here to Trader Joe's, and sometimes people forget that we're such an autopilot all the time,
Mhm.
and it's just those when you make a wrong left turn or you make a wrong right turn, and then how frustrated you can get. Like you can see the Trader Joe's on the other side, and you're going
Hmm.
in circles, and you're like, I can't get there.
Yeah. And what I find so interesting is many people don't even know that they can be the driver. They
Right.
think they're the car. They don't know that they have a driver or are the driver or can decide what happens with the car. They just are reacting all the time in the car
Mm.
as the car.
Yeah. And that's a good thing to go around because it's like when people react, it's very people's emotions. And a lot of times people react first, which is normal. A lot of people, this is what we all do. We all react to an emotion, react to a situation, react to change. And it's an emotion that we all go through. I think it's the what we're trying to explain to people is how you process that reaction and understanding that these emotions are real. And in the car analogy, if you are overwhelmed, all the lights are going off, the windshield are going off, the radio's loud, comes in, like you have the choice to just stop the car and walk out, which
Yeah.
it's a lot of times people don't understand. And then that's like the bird's eye view, right, of just like taking a pause and just hold on and then turning things off one at a time or self regulating. And it's really important for people to understand that this is just a concept.
Right. And I think what I've seen is a lot of people know the process of what to do, but they can't do it because they're not emotionally regulated. So
Mm-hmm.
understanding that comes first, that you can't start trying to manage your brain until your body is in a place where your prefrontal cortex can actually open and
Mm-hmm.
see what's happening. And so that is the most important part of it, I think, is because I have people who have learned each individual component, but if you can't do one without the others. So
Mm-hmm.
even though they're like, yeah, but I can't think that way or I can't do that. Of course you can't because you're in fight or flight. Your brain, your prefrontal cortex is clamped down. Your body has two jobs, and that's to be efficient and keep you safe. It is not to be contemplative and thoughtful and considerate of all your options. Your brain is wired to do that. And so when we can recognize that, oh my gosh, I don't have any control, we can go, okay, what are the steps? I'm going to slow my breathing. And when I slow my breathing for about a minute to 2 minutes, that triggers chemical reactions in your body. That
Mm-hmm.
sends a message from your heart to your brain that sends all those neurotransmitters to lower your blood pressure, to decrease your heart rate, to most importantly, in this case, open up your prefrontal cortex. And then I have people work to create a renewing emotional shift. And we do that by recalling and sincerely attempting to create love, kindness, or gratitude. And when you do that, creates even more chemicals and decreases your cortisol and helps increase your DHEA. And then once you're there, you've become the driver, you've managed your car, now you can think about what your options are and see things from different perspectives. And once you're there in awareness and able to just try on different thoughts and work through it, it makes all of the difference in the world. It is
Mm-hmm.
literally life changing.
I hear that. So what made you go into nurse coaching?
I had a friend, actually a colleague and mentor, who had just reached out to me when she was looking for her postgraduate program, and she came across nurse coaching, and she just called me and said, "Hey, this sounds like you." And at the time, this would have been in 2019, early
Yeah.
2019. I said, "No, I don't know, but I don't have time for this. I'm busy. I'm working. I'm raising kids. I'm teaching my fitness classes. I'm just busy with life." And but what happened is she planted a seed, and so from then on, I started just researching here and there, and it just struck a nerve with me because my goal when I was a teenager, if you'd asked me what I wanted to be, I would have told you I wanted to be a motivational speaker and a solid gold dancer. And through Zumba, which I found in 2006 and have been teaching since then, I hit the check the box for the dancing, which I've led people all over the world in dancing and fitness. And with coaching, it really allowed me to become that motivational speaker. And now I do speak on a stage, but in
Yeah.
the beginning it was one on one and just holding space and speaking hope and life into people and giving them really hope without necessarily changing their situation. And
Mm.
that's been the most incredible gift to me in this life. And then I see it for others because it helps them change their life.
Yeah. And I wanted to talk to you about your Zumba because you do something different about Zumba that no one else has done. You do water Zumba.
I do. I do both. I do aqua
Yes.
Zumba and land Zumba. Yeah. And
Yes. So I want people to understand this. Like she does this unique thing in the water, which I still want to, I want like a girlfriend, when I come to you or comes up, like I want to do that because it's good. I don't think a lot of people may or may not know that there's aqua Zumba out there.
yeah, so a lot of people, when they think about aqua exercise. They picture old ladies in flowery hats, that water aerobics. But aqua Zumba really is aquatic fitness with that same just fun, energy, party atmosphere. And the thing that's so incredible about aquatic fitness is the medium of water. You have buoyancy, which for people who, may be large, bigger, and they can't jump, they can jump in the water. It lifts you up.
Mm.
For people who have fall risks, who have joint issues, and for perfectly fit, healthy people, because water pushes you as hard as you push. So I can have a 90-year-old woman and a 25-year-old athlete doing the same routine, and they're both getting a killer workout. Because as hard
Mm.
as you push the water, it pushes you back. And then you have tools. You have your lever links. You have the ability to change the shape of your hands and how hard you push. And then, of course, that's all the exercise part of it. But then you have the fun component. And then
Yeah.
you think about hydrostatic pressure, which means you have more than 40,000 gallons of water pressure on your lungs while you're exercising. So when you get out, it's like you can breathe. It's almost like stepping off one of those, not escalators, but those traveling devices in the
Oh
airport.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
You
Yeah.
go and then you step off and you're like, what?
You're like, poof.
It's like that. You exercise in the water and you get out and people feel amazing. Your body temperature stays low, you're sweating, you don't feel it. And it's really like, we used to joke all the time, like that old movie Cocoon, where the old people go in the water and they come out young.
And that's one of the best parts, because I don't know about you, but I don't like I have a hard time with sweat. So I like this water idea, because in my head, if I start sweating, I can just dunk my head.
Yes.
and,
Yes.
and there it goes. Like, I don't have to come up. And a lot of people are like, ew, it goes into the water. I'm like, what do you think? It does. That's
And
what
it's
it goes
chlorinated.
into. It's chlorinated. So
water.
we're good.
And it's tested. Most pools are tested 4 times a day. You're in a very safe environment. And it's just so much fun because, and the
Yeah.
one big component is the anonymity. People don't like to be watched. They don't like to be seen. And one of the things people will say is, I don't want people to see me in a swimsuit. The beauty of the water, you can cover yourself from a towel to the pool. And once you drop in, nobody can see what you're doing below the water. Even as
No.
the instructor, I stand on deck. All I can see, and I tell people, I'm like, I only know how hard you're working by the faces you make. If you want me to think you're working hard, make some faces. But once you're in the water, nobody can see you.
And to realize that you've gone to Mexico, you've done international things with this. And
Yes,
this is really like
absolutely.
this is like why I think, like, when I heard about this, even on a couple of our calls, remember, I was like, what? We can go to Cabo together? And you're telling me we could do Zumba and you can coach at the same time? Because there's always a dual component to that as well,
Yeah,
right? And I'm
yeah.
like, that sounds like so much fun.
It is. There's nothing better than Zumba in tropical paradise. I've taught in the pools and the resorts, and I've had the opportunity to teach in the ocean with an international crowd. And there's just nothing better because music brings joy, and this kind of music and movement, it doesn't matter if you speak the same language, music speaks to everyone. And it is such a judgment-free type of movement. And I've been teaching since 2006. I can't tell you the number of times people have told me I've gotten off my medications or I'm in a better relationship because when you feel good in your body, and exercise creates all kinds of amazing
Yeah.
neurochemicals, and when you do it regularly and you do it with people that you enjoy, it also changes your life.
Yeah. The sense of community, right? The sense of
Absolutely.
belonging, the sense of community. And that's one of the things that I feel, I mean, especially after COVID, and it's coming back slowly. It's coming back slowly. The belonging aspects of community and the lack of it a lot of the times. Like for me, I'm at home 95% of the time. I'm doing Zoom calls, I'm comes in. So even for me, it's just like that search of that community, to search, it goes back to having fun. I think once you find that community and you're having fun in it and you're able to do this water Zumba or whatever exercise, whatever it is that you're doing, that's like where the passion comes in. And that's
Mm-hmm.
where I always tell people, like, that's also where money, income drives. If you're out there, hey, I would like to do this as like a side job or a real job, like, do it. It's fun. You can do it.
Right.
you
Yeah.
know?
And I think we talked about this, but when I first started coaching, I felt the need to really separate myself. The
Yeah.
Zumba instructor, which is a really outgoing, I used to be known as the crazy Zumba lady. So that is a persona. And with coaching, I felt like I needed to separate it and be just very professional and
Mm.
present myself in a completely different way. And I struggled for a while because it's just not who I am. And actually, it was through our coaching together where I found my place where I am able to be all of who I am, which is this passionate, fun loving, health and wellness focused fitness instructor, along with this professional, compassionate, serious, not always, but provide a serious space for people to share and grow. And by marrying those two, it really created the best of both worlds because now the people that come to me, they know full well who I am. And that's part of the draw, is that's just who I am. And the people who don't come to me, those weren't my people in the first place. It works
Right.
out. It's worked out beautifully.
Yeah. And you're very, like, you get So Joni has a very distinct thing with her. She gets clients just by referrals. Like you attract people to you because that's just who your personality is. And you're very blessed with that. And it was a really blessing for me to see you because it's even if you're going to when you went to the Chamber of Commerce, I remember you had a story and you walked in and then you developed a client from the front desk person or the person that you were talking to. And they're like, I think you're talking to me. I'm like, yeah, because she was.
And I'm
So
still working with her. She's fantastic.
oh, but that's like my point. It's just like your energy and your love and your shine. When you are your true, authentic self, the clients finds you or you find them in a very energetic, loving way. And it was brilliant to watch you through that. What was one of the challenges that you face, like being a coach? What's one of the things, because I know it's a story for you to share if you want to. There's been like ups and downs that I want people to realize. Like, what's one of the biggest challenges you faced while being a nurse coach right now or in entrepreneurship?
Gosh, there's so many. But that's literally what being an entrepreneur is, the ups and downs. In the beginning, it was literally just seeing myself as a coach, even saying the word coach. It felt very imposterous. And then, of course, for most of us nurses, asking people for money, trying to set a price, having an understanding and belief in my own value to be able to ask people for money. That was huge. But what's so funny is in the beginning, you think I couldn't even ask for $50 a call.
Yeah,
I was like, oh, but over time, over learning, and actually seeing people get results, you begin to understand the value of what you offer. And so for me, with every client that I saw improve, I had a little more belief in myself. And so practicing that belief and focusing on the people that I have helped and their results helps me to stay in what I call a high value cycle, where then I
yeah,
feel comfortable and confident to reach out. So for me, again, the biggest challenge is belief in yourself and your
mm,
ability. What's so cool though is that is part of what I teach. So I don't just talk the talk, I walk the walk. And so
yeah,
every challenge in my life that now comes, I'm able to use my own process, which then in turn strengthens my belief in
yeah,
what I teach and what I share and how I help people as it's helping them.
yeah. And that's a real big key for people to really hear this is that when you are in your true authentic self and when you are practicing what you are coaching on, that's when it comes back to you at tenfold because I wouldn't be able to sit here and state I am an advocate for children with disabilities. I think if I were to go up and then not really truly be an advocate, how am I an advocate if I'm not an advocate? It's like a double-edged sword. So when I love it when people, especially with you, is you really truly walk your walk. You really truly, I'm not going to talk about personal stuff, but I know we've gone through a lot of personal things in your life in our coaching container where I literally saw you go through your own process. And it was like, okay, she's not the driver right now. She's self-regulating. She's listening to that music. She got out of the car a couple of times.
Yeah. And actually, I have had another thing happen since we completed our work together, just in the last month, that has really profoundly, deeply changed, not changed, but emphasized the value of what I do and how I help people. Can I share that story with you?
Absolutely. Please. I want to know.
So let's see, 4 weeks ago, Monday, 4 weeks ago, actually 4 weeks ago, Tuesday, I had been having some abdominal pain over the weekend. I'm going to go ahead and talk like a nurse. I thought I was constipated, thought I had gas,
That's the
thought the
first thing we
things,
do.
thought
Right.
the things. So I just went through the weekend, just like this intermittent pain coming and going. That Monday, I canceled all my clients. I just didn't feel good. I just stayed in bed in and out the day, trying all these yoga poses to move things along, still thinking there's something going on there. And then I decided to go to work on Tuesday. Or I didn't decide I had to go to work on Tuesday in the
Mm-hmm.
hospital. And as nurses, we are very doggedly and sometimes pushy people. And so when I walked in the door and one of the staff said, "Hey, how you doing?" Rather than my normal, "Oh, it's great, it's going to be a great day," all the things that I am, I said, "I've been better." And it was so funny. You could hear a pin drop. Everybody's, "What in the world? If Joni says she's been better, something's wrong."
Something's really wrong with you. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yes.
I went through the day just holding my gut here and there, and they were like, "You need an ultrasound. You're gonna need an ultrasound right now. We're gonna do it right now." And I'm like, "No." And then finally, one of them was so pushy, she asked one of the cardiologists to order me an ultrasound. And the cardiologist said, "What for?" And then she got the info and she was, "I think you need a CAT scan. Let's do a CAT scan with contrast. And we're going to order it now." And so I left my job and went across the hall and got a CT with contrast, expecting really fully well that it was going to be impacted gas or stool or something. And actually turned out to be a 10 by 10 by 6 centimeter mass. The ultrasound said, or the CT said, suspicious ovarian neoplasm with septations, wall, all the things. So I reviewed that result with the cardiologist and she was like, I'm so sorry. And I was already like, okay, what is this? Your brain goes to what it could be. And I just use my own process of I don't know what it is. I can go down this fear path or I can, let's take the next step, an MRI.
Yeah.
So the next morning I called my doc, went in, got blood work. He ordered the MRI. The next day I got the MRI, same thing, big mass, needs attention. He referred me to a gynecological oncologist
Right.
immediately. So that was Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I tried to get the call in on Friday, got through on Monday. They scheduled me for Tuesday. I went in, spoke
Right.
to
I mean, they have to. Yeah. Yeah.
the oncologist. She said, yeah, this is big. This is something. Let's get it out. Schedule that for the next Monday. So 2 weeks ago, Monday, I had the surgery. They took out two softball size masses from my abdomen. Supposed to be laparoscopic, ended up being open. And it was, praise God, it was benign, completely
Oh,
100%. But let me tell you, for
yeah.
that week and a half, 2 weeks, my husband and I, it was just the two of us. We didn't tell anybody. We didn't tell the kids. We just managed it. And the idea that we may not get to retire together. I may not get to see my daughter get married
Mm,
and my children have kids. And I allowed myself with my process when I needed to let the emotions wash over me, feel them, notice them. And this is what I teach my clients: describe it in your body, let it be. And after about 90 seconds, if it's still there, then you can start asking yourself some questions. What am I thinking? What am I focusing on? And
yeah.
when I was focusing on what might happen, what I might not have in life, of course you go down. But when I focused on, oh my gosh, the amazing things that I've been blessed to experience in my life, I felt really
Mm,
good. And so I was aware constantly of what my brain was giving me. And I was choosing the things that felt better than bad. And I kept asking myself, what's a thought that you can focus on that is true and is authentic and makes you feel grateful or
yeah.
better than bad is what I'm always shooting for. And the thought that I'm so grateful this is happening to me and not one of my kids
Mm,
grounded me every single moment. Whenever I would get scared or overwhelmed, and I would do the same thing with my husband, I would say, but thank God it is me. And when I said that, literally, that was true gratitude. I wouldn't take $1 billion to trade places with one of my kids with this,
right.
right? So
Right.
finding that authentic thought that brings you peace. And so that's where I stayed most of that week is I would go, okay, here's the bad things, but oh, thank you, God, that it's not them and that it's
Yeah.
me because, and then part of me is like, oh, that's even selfish because it's much easier for me to manage me than it would be for me to
Right.
stand by hopeless or not hopeless, but
With them.
helpless. But
Helpless with them.
yeah. And so I just kept coming back to that thought. And what is also true is we don't know. Until we know, there's no
Right.
sense to go down that road. We can do it, but you don't have to. And then it turned out that it was benign and there was nothing even to be residual. Because I've had friends who have this
Right.
procedure, they open them up, it's everywhere. And
Yeah.
and then you have that road. But what I did was during that week and a half, 2 weeks, whatever that was, I was able to use this process. And now I know how powerful it is. I've used it in lots of other areas, but this is life and death. And I honestly believe, had it gone a different way and there was something, I would still be managing myself in that same capacity and helping myself through it, allowing space for emotion, because that's the thing we don't want to do as coaches is to tell people it's not real or whatever. But
Right.
we
Right.
also don't have to stay in that all the time. We have the ability to decide what we want to focus on. We don't get to decide what comes up. Your brain's going to give you thoughts. And again, it's always trying to put you in survival mode. That's its
Yeah.
job. But we are the driver. We are the driver of the car, and we get to decide which things we focus on. And so for me, that has been like life changing in the sense of you get to decide what's important, what you want to say yes to and no to. And I get to decide how important what I do is when I help people
Mm,
because I'm doing the same thing with them for them and teaching them how to
yeah.
do it. And it doesn't matter what the situation is, whether it's a health issue or relationship issue or work issue, it's all the same process. So and so now I see this as, oh, I'm so blessed. I've now had this
Mm.
opportunity to really go through something hard and heavy and see that it works.
How are you doing now?
I'm amazing. You mean physically, mentally, or emotionally?
Mentally, I can see you're in your spirits.
Yeah, yeah. And physically, I'm doing great. I taught Zumba last night. I wore my binder. I told them to remind me not to jump. And I was a little sore afterwards, but I've got another class tonight and I'll do the same thing again. I'm really great. And most importantly, I'm really grateful.
Thank you for sharing. One, thank you for sharing this publicly, first of all. And two, prayers to you. Thank God it's benign.
Yeah.
Thank God that it's benign. because I was thinking in my head, I'm like, did she rupture her appendix? Are we going diverticulitis? I wasn't anticipating that.
I
I was like,
wasn't either.
I was like, ovarian cyst. I'm like, okay. I was like, maybe she has a ruptured ovarian cyst the way you were talking. And I was like, yeah, I was thinking everything else but that.
Yeah, yeah.
And I don't mean to laugh, but I'm like, I really, when that came up, that was pure shock for me because I was like, whoa. But those are the curveballs that come up, right? Where us as nurses, a lot of the times people always say this. They're like, oh, you're so powerful. You guys, you nurses, you guys are so great at regulating your emotions. But it's also a death storm in our mind too, where it's just like all these possibilities that occur and you know what it can be or what it could be and all these different things. And it's that rabbit hole that we can go down because we know too much.
Absolutely. And I would also say that nurses, we might be good at regulating our emotions at work in the moment, what's on the outside. But what I've found with nurses is we're not so good at it because we then internalize and beat ourselves up and we can't help but stay focused on the things that are not good, whether it's the situation at work, whether it's the people we work with, whether it's the culture of our work. And so I had talked to you about this before about doing my workshop with Kaiser Permanente in Los Angeles, and that's actually going to happen in December.
That's so
It's
exciting.
Yeah, it's going to be in December and it's entitled Beyond Burnout, Revitalizing Nurses and Elevating Patient Care. And I'm so excited because originally when I talked to them about my process, they were interested but here's what we really want, which is, and then they went back to, or the person I was speaking with went back to the thing that everybody gets, which is self-care and bubble baths and all of this stuff. And I was like, that's not really what I do.
Yeah.
But then I submitted some more stuff and spoke with another person, and he was like, "This, we want you to do whatever it is you do." And I had
Because
to,
that's your specialty.
yeah, I had to revamp my learning goals because they had to be approved by a board and all of these things,
Right.
and they need more specificity. But what I did is the first half of the day, and so it's a full day workshop. The first half of the day is going to be specifically about my process, body, mind, spirit, your car,
Mm-hmm.
the driver, and the map. And then the second half of the day will just be about reaching all the goals, the implementation things that they
Yeah.
wanted. But what I told them is I was like, I'm submitting this and it may look different than anything you've seen, but here's what I know. If people don't get the first part, they will not get the second part, all the things you
Yeah.
want them to do. Because in the hospital and in corporations, they're always telling people, these are
Yep.
our values, here's our processes, this is what you should do for patients, customers, clients. But the problem is if people cannot change their mind about
Mm-hmm.
whatever's happened or how they feel about it or don't know how, they can't implement any of those things for any length of time. It's going to be a short term. Let's check a few boxes. I
I'm
can
so
see you what
excited.
you're putting your hands
I'm
together.
so excited. I'm so excited because we were talking about this what, June, July, like
Yeah, way
even
back.
like way back, and this was just conversations even in our coaching container. So I'm just like, I'm so excited. Is this in person?
It's in person. So I'm coming to LA in December.
Tell me the date. Okay, tell me dates. Tell me dates.
The
We'll talk
20th.
offline.
Yeah. The 20th,
We'll
I
talk
think is when.
offline. Yeah, tell me dates. I'll see if I can probably get out because it's just this is what lights me up when I see people like you getting flown out to go in these large organizations to imprint your analogy, which I told you from day one, like even a year and a half ago when we first had our calls. I remember even saying, I was like, what's that in the background? What's your wheel in the background? Remember? And I was
Yeah.
like, I'm interested in that. I was like, that's
Yeah.
gold. And I remember telling you, I was like, that's gold over there.
Yeah. And one thing I would share with the other nurses and entrepreneurs out there is it's so easy to get bogged down in fear and overwhelm when it comes to
Yeah.
things like this. And the thing that, again, just like with my mass or my tumor, that brings me back is finding the thought that calms me. And the thought is, oh my gosh, I can help one or two people
Yeah.
come to work in a different way, to show up differently. And I know
Yeah.
that because every time I speak, I say my goal is just to help one person. Hopefully you do more, but minimum
Right.
change
Right.
one
Minimum
life.
of one person. Yeah.
And every time someone, at least one person will come up and say, oh my gosh, that's exactly what I needed today. Or
Yeah.
from one of my last ones, it was a mom, and now I'm working with her college age athlete who's
Right.
struggling. And this athlete is doing phenomenal now and making some choices in her life that she was afraid to make before. And so every time my thought is if I can just either help one person today or help one person who connects me to help one person. And then it takes all the stress and fear away from trying to create this content and this stuff and make it look professional and be what they want. It's not. It's connecting and sharing this message, however it comes out.
Yeah. Ah, I'm so happy for you. Like I have jitters.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm
I'm
excited.
so excited. It comes in. And I want to ask you a personal question. Maybe this can help the viewers too. If you What's the one thing you learned from me? I'm curious now because this, like, all this is new for me, guys. This is all I'm hearing this first time in a long time. Like all these different things that we're going. I'm like, she's doing like it's coming. And yeah, I'll see if I can do to fly out. What's the one thing that you learned from our container? Like now that you're like not in my container, but you're still moving the needle forward. I
Um,
love that.
Gosh, there's so many things because I don't have my notebook with me because I used to write them down, my takeaways from each session. But and you had some really good one-liners too. But I think the biggest thing was to be all of who I am. That was probably the game changer from where I was before working with you and after. And that decision to be all of who I am had so many other rippling effects that were really good for my business because I was already making money. I was already
Yeah,
doing the thing.
right.
But I was doing it disjointedly and not as just full authenticity. So that, and I think just a lot of yours, oh, what? That sucks. So what are you going to do? What can you do? Also, the AI and Chat GPT, you shared that with me, and I was very hesitant at first, and now I use it, and it really helps. And I actually even share it with my clients to use
Yeah,
in their particular lives trying to solve situations. And none of my clients are coaches, but they're students and they're employees, and there are things that they
yeah.
want to do. And I think that's an amazing tool to help.
Yeah, it's great. I love AI. I actually just put my speech, my TEDx speech into AI and I asked prompts for it. Say, hey, can you grade this with TEDx standards and what would you improve? I was pretty surprised with myself. It said, this is overall a very good TEDx talk. And I was like, thank you,
Yay.
AI. I'm like,
Yeah.
yes. And they're like, then they give you suggestions and then it says, okay, where should I put pauses? And I was just like, this is, I'm not saying coaching in general will ever get taken away from AI, but also just to know that AI can help you save so much time and energy. It's like with your model, it comes up. Like I tell people, you can do content, you can do things, change it up to your voice. So don't just throw it out there. People, please read it and make sure it sounds like you. But at
Right.
least it gets your ideas are able to generate in. And it's just like people are, you're able, it spits out things that you're like, that's what I was trying to say, but I didn't know how to say it.
And it simplifies.
Oh,
One of my clients, she's a TikToker. She's a college student, but she's a TikToker, and she was telling me she was having trouble or hadn't posted in a while coming up with content. And so I shared this with her,
mhm.
and she was like, oh my gosh, 30 days of material with her
Yeah,
own voice. She just lit up. She's, oh, I can do this. I know what I want to say. It's just sitting down to make it sound right for this
right.
day and that day. And it's the same with all of us.
It's same thing,
Yeah.
same. And that's the thing. It takes, I tell people, it takes the pressure off. It takes the pressure off of you. Obviously, I'm very cautious with AI. Like, don't use it. Comes up, copy. Don't copy and paste it because it can tell
Oh, yeah,
people.
for sure.
But it takes the pressure off, or it validates you. And I think that's one of the main things I love about AI, especially in coaching, is that I can put in a video and say, okay, this is how I coached. How can I be better? I can see a shift if I do the transcribing. It can tell you different things of, oh, next time in this place, maybe you should reframe it here, or next time comes up. So it is like a check and balances more. You do have to learn the prompts and you got to learn all the lot of stuff. Take what I take for granted. Take what I say with a grain of salt. Because some people are like with intellectual property. No, when it's
Intellectual.
like intellectual property. I was like, what is that?
Yes.
My dyslexia is kicking in now. But it's your thoughts. It's your matter. It's what you're doing. You have to create it and put it into your own words. Just to really put that on public knowledge. So that way people are like, oh, it comes up. No, gotta put it into your own words, people. Please do that.
Yeah. So what I do with my presentations that I do, I just record them, and then that goes into building my chat
Yeah.
GPT persona. So even though so it knows, and so I always say, using all the material you already have about me in my coaching process, blah, blah, blah. And so
Yeah.
it just pulls all of that stuff in, and I do the presentations differently each time, or the speeches,
Yeah.
and even though it's the same content, it's just giving more texture and perspective to the thing. Back to what we said before, it's not about all the words, it's the message.
Right.
So
Because I think like and you have a very beautiful message every time you speak. So I think it's just like sometimes altering it a little differently so it's presented in a different light would might trigger somebody else's thought that you may not have realized.
and it depends on who you're talking to.
Right.
Speak with high school kids. I'm going to do another high school thing in December as well, and trying to just gear it towards them. It's the same content, but just a different focus. Same thing with different nurses and college students and whomever you're working
Right.
with. It's just packaging it, or at least for me, because of what I coach and my process.
Right.
It's just, what do you say, tailoring it towards their,
Exactly.
yeah.
Exactly. So if you had one advice to give to new nurse coaches or new entrepreneurials, what would it be?
I would say don't make your baby responsible for paying your bills. And what I mean by that is what I've seen a lot of nurses do come out with this. They quit their job and they put a lot of
Oh yeah.
stress on themselves. And that, from everything I've seen, that stress translates and people pick up on your, not, I wouldn't say desperation, like I'm desperate, but in many cases you are because you
Yeah.
got to pay your bills. And so for me, yeah, I've been doing this for 4 years. I'm still working in the hospital. I plan to move, but for where I am right now, I let my business be my business. I don't put pressure
Yeah.
on it. I am doing it from heart and compassion. Now, I have that luxury because I'm still working, but and I think maybe I could do it sooner if I want to. But what I see a lot of people do is they get out and then they're like, I gotta make it. And it's hard to really show up in
Hmm.
service when you gotta make it. Then you're trying
Yeah.
desperately to get clients. And what I have found over time, when I'm trying to get clients desperately, I get the wrong clients. They might be
Yeah.
yeses, but they don't really mean to be, or
Yeah.
they're not really yeses. They're
Right.
yeses and they pay or they don't pay, but they're not getting they're not getting results and they're not getting transition, which is or transformation, which is what I want to help people do. So
Yeah.
just allowing your business to be a baby for a while. We don't make our babies pay the bills.
I love that. I love the analogy again because initially when you said don't when you initially said that at first I was like, where's she going with this? And then I'm like, ah,
Yeah. That's not for everybody. Maybe some people can just jump off and do it. Nurse coaching is a different thing. It's not like we're selling
it's
widgets.
no. And it's also, I always tell people, always have that money generating income coming. So your passionate money generate income can thrive,
Yeah,
you
same
know?
thing. So you're saying
Yeah.
exactly the same thing.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. It's just a different when you said, I don't know, like, don't let the baby pay. I got better now.
It makes more sense. We would never ask our
Right.
toddler to pay your house payment, to go
No.
work and pay, got to grow up. And then when they're 20, yeah, you come back and pay the house payment.
You got to pay some bills now, kid. Yeah. It's true. It's just, I want people, I like this advice because I like to hear it from other people's perspectives because some people can jump off and be good and they're very successful at it. And then some people want them to realize that nurse coaching, entrepreneurship in general takes anywhere from 2 to 3 to 4 years to really develop. And I don't care. You can go to corporations right away. You can do one-on-ones right away. You can do retreats. It's all in combination of who your true authentic self is, right? But they
Right.
all have to flow together in order to do it. And I always tell people, and you're right, the minute you start stressing about not paying bills, not putting food on your table, not being able to do things with your children or your husband or whatever it is, that type of stress it's that survival instinct type mode. And it's hard. Once you're in that place, I tell people it's not a failure. If you go back to bedside, it's not a failure if you're getting, even if you got a job at Target. I would love to get a job at Target. 25% off.
Yeah, I consider my job the silent investor in my coaching business.
Exactly. And I thinking it's like even when I first started, people were like, "Oh, you were very successful very quickly." And I said, "Not really. What you saw was a persona of it, yes. But a lot of people didn't realize I was still per diem at my job. I was still working as a school nurse. I was doing basically 3 jobs just to make sure that I was like, and I did that for a year
Right.
to make sure, okay, am I on solid grounds? Am I going to do this? Can I break the other two away in order for me to make enough here? And when the answer was energetically yes, or the universe was like, you don't got time for this and you don't got time for that. Or if you go to because I used to work weekends, it was more of, okay, you're working Monday through Friday and now weekends come and, okay, do you really want to say no to your daughter or your son? The answer was no. So
Right.
that's when it was the energetic pull of, okay, I have to make a choice. And I made the choice. And I tell people now, if anything were to change and say if I were to be strapped for cash or say if I just chose to go back just because I wanted to, because I can. Like there is no right, wrong, good, or bad. And it's not that you're failing because you're not. You're just, it's a silent investor. I love that. It's a silent investor.
Yeah,
See,
I'm
I'm silent
grateful.
investing that way.
I'm grateful for my silent investor because it allows me to do what I want with my business. Yeah.
And have fun. Goes back to having fun.
Yeah. Yeah. And just
So
being authentic was above all else.
thank you for being here. We will make sure to have her links and everything on below. If you guys can, please and subscribe on this YouTube channel. We really appreciate it. Thank you so much for being here and such a pleasure. I can't wait to catch up, like really catch up with you now. Like we got a
Me
lot.
too.
We have a lot to talk about.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited and so proud of you and all that you're doing. And I can't wait to see the TEDx talk and hear more about it.
Thank you guys.
All right. See you later.
Bye.
Bye.